This is Democracy Watch. So, Mark, I want to turn your attention to a statement from Lara Trump that sent shockwaves through this country just ahead of the election.
We now have the ability at the RNC not just to have poll watchers, people standing in polling locations, but people who can physically handle the ballots.
Okay, so first off, what is she talking about? And is it true that the RNC can have their operatives physically handling ballots?
Okay, so first of all, let's start with the second question. No, the RNC cannot have its operatives, who are poll watchers, handle ballots. Like, one of the cardinal rules of election administration in this country is that observers cannot handle ballots. Partisan, observers or challengers, whatever you call them, do not touch ballots. They can't even put their finger up against the ballot that someone else is holding. The ballots are handled very, very carefully, and they are only handled by the actual election officials. Now, in terms of, what she's talking about, there's two possibilities here. One is she is actually revealing a plan that the RNC has to infiltrate election offices with partisans to, in fact, mess with the ballots. And I would, in a normal world or in a normal year, discount that, because you'd say, well, that seems far-fetched. But let's just remember the person, one of the three lawyers that the new chair of the RNC hired, the one that he hired to run the election integrity program of the RNC, she was just indicted in Arizona for election subversion. So it's possible that Laura gave away the goods here, that in fact they are planning to infiltrate elections. The other possibility is that in between her recording sessions and her music career, she just got confused.
Well, Mark, what is the point of her going on TV and saying this? Because if she actually believes something that is categorically untrue, then she's just betraying how inept, how incompetent she is. But if she doesn't believe it, is she just placating her base? I think this was on Newsmax, I believe. Is she just placating her base with straight disinformation?
So again, I think the mistake I have made, and I think the mistake that many people have made, both in the mainstream media and frankly on the left, is that in the past, we have assumed that when Donald Trump and his sycophants say outrageous things, it is because they're confused, or they're playing to their base, or they are just posturing. I think it's time that we take them literally. When they say they are going to have 100,000 poll observers and lawyers challenging ballots, we should assume that they are going to have 100,000 people doing that. When they say that they are going to have partisans from the RNC handling ballots, we should assume that they have a plan, in fact, to do that. Because the truth is, too many people, thought that Donald Trump would not take things as far as he did after the 2020 election. And the next thing you know, we woke up and there was a violent insurrection in the Capitol. So I think right now the benefit of the doubt is gone from Donald Trump. The benefit of the doubt is gone from the RNC. We need to assume that they're going to do what they say they're doing.
Well, I know that this caught your attention when she had said it out loud. So is there anything that you and your firm are or could be doing as a result of this?
Absolutely. So look, my firm and I, we are already litigating more than 50 cases, voting rights and anti-election subversion cases in more than 20 states. So we are active in court and will continue to be active in court. We monitor what the RNC and right-wing organizations are planning to do, and we are not hesitant to go to court and seek relief if that is appropriate, and we have a good track record of winning. Democracy Docket, is out there to publicize all of this stuff and make sure that there are no secrets to what the RNC and the right wing is doing. So, I hope people subscribe to Democracy Docket and read it, because it is one of the early warning signs around this.
I cannot stress enough. I use Democracy Docket on a daily basis. It's how I get all of my information related to every single case that's happening right now. Mark mentioned 50 cases in over 20 states. So again, to support the invaluable work that Mark and his team do, this work that we need Mark and his team on the front lines of, please sign up for Democracy Docket. The link is right here on the screen. It's also in the post description of this video. Mark, all of this, these claims by Lara Trump really highlight the danger that Republican poll watchers, for example, we've talked about election vigilantism, that they can pose. So that's been a priority across the right, but especially among these fringe figures like Steve Bannon, for example. So can you speak on that?
Yeah, so first of all, I think we have to stop distinguishing between the fringe and the mainstream. Steve Bannon is not somehow disconnected from the mainstream.
He was Donald Trump's chief strategist, the chief strategist of the guy who was not only the former Republican president, but the current Republican nominee.
Right, and the RNC has said that they are going to be working with these, what they call grassroots organizations, what you and I would call fringe vote suppression and election vigilante organizations. So I think that's number one. Number two, the term poll watcher, it really doesn't apply to what Republicans have in mind. I mean, historically, like in past years, yes, you had people who would watch what was going on. They were there to observe, and that's it.
They likely weren't armed with an AR-15 and a bulletproof vest.
Right, and they were not videotaping people. They were not following people out to the parking lots. They were not suing for the right to harass election workers, and they were not there to gum up the works. We know that the Republican plan for 2024 is to make it harder to vote and easier to cheat. And the harder to vote stuff is the stuff that my team and I are litigating now in court. The easier to cheat stuff is what these folks are being trained to do. It is to show up and intimidate. It is to show up and delay vote counting. You know, you and I have talked about this before. How many times have we heard them say they think all the ballots need to be counted on election day? And then all of the things they do, whether it's requiring hand counting or these very, very intrusive efforts to gum up the works through election challenges and voter challenges, this is their strategy. So there are lots of things they can do to create the environment both to genuinely interfere with the elections, but also to create the rhetorical floor that then lets them say, stop counting. Stop counting. Why are these things going on?
Mark, I know that people are going to watch this and start to feel a sense of despair, like all of this is happening kind of independent of anything that we can do. Is there anything that viewers, that Democrats more broadly, can do to push back against what feels like the inevitable encroachment of anti-democratic behavior?
Absolutely. Look, the first thing I tell people is, yes, democracy is on the docket, and that's part of my job, but democracy is on the ballot. Okay, so the first thing everyone needs to do is to make sure they are registered to vote. Check your voter registration. Even if you think you're registered, make sure it's up to date. You haven't been erroneously removed. Number two, make sure your friends and families, they are all registered to vote. Then make sure you all have a plan to vote, to actually show up. You know what day, you know where your polling place is. If you're going to vote by absentee, how are you going to get an absentee ballot? How are you going to return it? Have a plan to do it. Once you have done those things, then it is everyone's job to stand up to the bullies. Don't let the Republicans win by intimidating people from voting. Don't let them win by passing laws in the dark of night. Show up at your legislature. Show up at your county canvassing board meetings. Show up and stand up for the right to vote and against Republican voter suppression. If we all do that, we will counteract what they are planning for the fall.
Perfectly put. I want to end with this, and I apologize for burying the lead here, but Mark, I want to turn your attention to this moment.
We're going to have lawyers in all the major polling locations across the country. We have lawsuits in 81 states right now. We won about a week and a half ago.
So there it is. The RNC has lawsuits pending right now in 81 states. I just wanted to check with you and see if D.C. was one of those states, if we had gotten statehood, that maybe all of us missed in between all of the prosecutions and litigation.
Puerto Rico, Guam.
Puerto Rico, yeah. What do you think about that? What do you think about our new expanded country right now?
Look, I think that it goes to show how absolutely made up so many of the things she says are. I mean, they're obviously not 81 states, and they don't have 81 lawsuits, right? Like, I think what she meant to say is that they have filed are currently litigating 81 cases. That's not true. That is a number.
Also a lie.
It's also a lie that they made up to make the boss, Donald Trump, feel like they are doing more voter suppression than they even are. I think that, maybe she has 81 tracks coming up on her next record album.
God help us. Okay, well, with that said, we will obviously stay on top of everything that the RNC continues to do. For those watching right now, if you want to support the invaluable work that Mark and his team are doing in the courts, which clearly is ground zero for all of this, please sign up for Democracy Docket. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Mark Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.